Okay, this is part 2 of our lab setup. We are preparing to work our way through the Microsoft Official Academic Course Lab Manual, installing and configuring Windows 10 in preparation for exam 698. I am not the publisher nor am I the author of this textbook or lab manual. I am simply an instructor who is teaching this for a course and providing video walkthrough. So before we can even get to lab 1, there's some things we need to do as far as lab setup. In the previous video, I walked through getting set up on your virtual environment. I'm using HyperV. However, there are other virtual environments that you can use if you're more comfortable with, but I'll be working with HyperV. We also went through what software was going to be required for these labs. And we left off with, and we also went over the requirements as far as hardware. We left off with the download of that software, which I have downloaded into this folder. So we have a couple of files in here. This is the ADK setup. This is just a PowerPoint viewer. One of these is the Okay, so I went ahead and just simply renamed these files. So the one is going to be a Windows Server 2012 R2 Standard, and I did the 64-bit. The other one is Microsoft Windows 10 Enterprise. And then I went ahead and I renamed this one. This is the Windows Assessment Deployment Kit for Windows 10.exe, and then the PowerPoint viewer. If you look in the software, it also says there's a test PowerPoint presentation. We can actually create that pretty easily just by right-clicking and then New, and then PowerPoint presentation. Now we have all the files required. Okay, also during the last video we set up our HyperV. So we went into our HyperV settings, we redirected our virtual storage of our hard drive, our hard disks, and our virtual machines to a folder that we created. Again, it doesn't really matter what you call it. This is just what I call it for my own sanity. And then I'm going to do OK. And then we also set up 2 switches. Well, I thought I set up 2 switches. There's private network 2. 1. So we should have 2 switches on here, and they should both be private. And then OK. Okay, so now we have our 2 switches already set up. Now we're actually ready to start installing our first machine. Now I went ahead and I created a Word document just to make things easier. This is the name of all of the devices we're going to be using. These are the operating systems on each of these devices. These are all the IP addresses, the amount of memory, and the amount of hard disk space. As we go through, I'm going to list which switches are going to be on which devices. I haven't gotten that far in yet, so I'm going to just keep this up as we work through. This first one is going to be our domain controller, and it's going to be 248 memory and 50 gig hard disk. So we're going to right-click, New, Virtual Machine. And this is going to be LON-DC1. And you'll see that the location where it's being stored is where we created it. And then next. And we're just going to let it default to generation 1. This is where we need to update our memory to 2048. And we're always going to choose this use dynamic memory for this virtual machine. And then next. And we want to select the private network. So we're going to click on here. So we're going to click on private network 1. And then next. And here we're going to assign 50 gig. And then next. Install an operating system from a bootable CD. Image ISO. Browse. It's on my desktop. And by the way, storing stuff on your desktop is not a good thing. And as soon as I'm done with these, they will be put onto my C drive. But for right now, for simplicity, I like putting things on my desktop. Finish. And we'll go ahead and start. So double click, start the machine. I want to update this. PN1. Here we're going to click on next and then install. And we want to do our standard edition. Now you see we have a couple of different options here. We want to make sure we do the server with the GUI, otherwise at the core all we're going to have is command line. Now while command line is popular with companies because it takes up fewer resources, it's actually more secure, we're going to be working with the GUI. Accept, next, custom install. And then next. And I'm going to pause the video while I wait for this to install. Alright, now what we're going to do is go ahead and put in our password. And we're going to use this password throughout all of the labs. So it's going to be PA$W0RD. Depending on which lab which school you go to, if you follow the textbook or not. I've also seen this be changed to this. Okay, but we're going to use this. And this is the W and then the number 0 RD. So we'll be using that for everything. And I did it wrong here. I did it right there. Okay. Let's go ahead and click on finish. Now, because this is a virtual machine, if you do Control-Alt-Delete, that's actually going to affect your live machine and not your virtual machine. The easiest thing to do is just click on this little button up here, and it's going to take you to your sign-on. And we're going to put in that PA $W0RD. For the server manager to come up. And we're going to click on local server. I really wish there was a way to improve the fonts on this. Even if I go to full screen mode, it really doesn't go to full screen mode. It just takes up the entire screen. Now we're going to go ahead and click on the Ethernet. And then left click, right click, properties. IPv4, properties. We're going to use this IP address. Make sure you enable your numlock. For some reason, at least on my machine, I have to, if I go to my keypad, I have to do turn my numlock on first. All right, so 172.1.6, oops, 0, and I just use my arrow keys for this, and then 10, tab is going to default correctly, tab, and we want to go down to the preferred DNS server. Now this is going to be our DNS, so we're going to put in 172.1.6.0, and then 10. Now we're going to click on OK. And then close. And then we're going to close out of this. Now we're going to click on our computer name. Actually, before I do that, I like to do that part last. I'm going to come over here, scroll to the right, and we're going to change the time. Change time zone, and I'm on Eastern, and then OK, and then OK. Right now we're going to go up to computer name. Now if you put anything here, this is not going to change the name. This is just the description. When I first started teaching these labs, that was one of the most common mistakes, is people would put it in here. That doesn't change the name. So we're going to click on change. This is where we need to change the name. Now according to these instructions, it wants us to change it to RWDC01. That was a name we were using in previous labs. Really, it should be LON-DC1. Oops, let me undo that. Just put it in red. So that's what we're going to name our machine. Control V. Oops. Fine. LON-DC1. Okay, so LON-DC1. And then we'll go ahead and do OK. It's going to make us restart our machine. And then OK. And then close. And we're going to go ahead and restart it. And I'm going to pause the video while I wait for this to restart. Okay. Now I got this pop-up box that's now going to allow me to go full screen, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. Now if we were using a DVD or need to utilize USB resources or things like that, if we clicked on local resources, we could enable that through here. So you just need to check one of those boxes. But we're not going to use that, but I want to show you where that was. We could also adjust our audio settings. And I'm going to go ahead and connect. Oops, display. I went to full screen. It should be easier to see, I hope. And then connect. Again, we're going to put our password. While I'm waiting for the server manager to come up, I'm going to see if I can make an adjustment. I'm afraid we're really limited on what we can do. On virtual machines. Okay, we want to go into Manage. And add rules and features. It's still thinking. Okay, we're going to go ahead and click on Next. and next. And next. And here we want to select Active Directory Domain Services and DNS, okay, add features, and DNS server, add features, and then next, 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 and install. Again, I'm going to pause while we wait for this to install. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and click on Promote the Server to a Domain Controller. Select the button that says Add a New Forest. And our domain is going to be adatum, adatum.com. And then next. Okay, and then under password, we're going to be using our standard password. On the DNS options page, we want to go ahead and click on Next. Additional options, we're going to click on Next. Paths, Next. And then Next again. And then install. Now, once this is done, it's going to reboot So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video while we wait for this to reboot. When I resume, it have already rebooted and we'll be signing in. Okay, now that it's rebooted, I'm going to minimize this for just a minute. One of the things I want to do is click on Media, DVD drive, and I want to eject this disk because we don't need it anymore. Also, when you first rebooted, you may have noticed a blue bar that goes all the way across your live machine, saying that the machine's getting ready to restart. That's your. It looks like your live machine, but it's not. It's actually telling you that your virtual machine is getting ready to reboot. So don't freak out when you see it. It's okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to log on as a datum/administrator. Put in our password. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to click on Tools and then go into our DNS. And I'm going to minimize this. Now we're in our DNS manager. What we want to do is expand this. And we want to expand the forward lookup zone. And bear with me, I just found another error in the instructions. Because it says it wants us to go into our contoso.com, but we're not using Contoso, we're using a datum. So I'm going to do replace contoso.com to a datum.com. Fonts, go back to red, and then OK. Replace all, and then OK. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and right-click the datum.com. I'll go ahead and expand it. And want us to right-click and go into Properties. Where it says Dynamic Updates, we want to change that to Non-Secure and Secure. And then click on OK. And then we're going to expand Reverse, right-click, New Zone, Next, Next. On the zone type, we're going to go ahead and take store the zone in Active Directory, that's fine, and Primary, Next, 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 and then here we're going to do 172.16, and then Next, Dynamic Update, and again it wants us to take the default, which is apply only secure dynamic updates, and then finish. And now I'm going to go ahead and create my software folder. I'm going to close out of this, right click, New, Folder, software. Actually, they want us to put it on the here. So I'm just going to hold down my right mouse click, drag and drop, and I want to move. But I want to create a shortcut here, just because it's easier. Now, that's not what's in the instructions, that's just because I like working from the desktop. It's easier for me. Now what we want to do is click on it. No, we don't. Right click, properties. I gotta go in the original one. Okay. Right click, properties, sharing, advanced sharing, share this folder, permissions, full control, okay, okay, and close. Now we want to copy those 4 files that we have in our live machine into this. So I'm just going to kind of drag this over here. Open up the folder. And I want to go here. And these are the 4 files that we want. One, two, three, four, actually 5. Control C. Now if I scroll down under network, that may not be it. Let's see, how do I have this named? Let's make sure I can see it here first. I need to turn on network discovery. So left click, turn on network discovery. And yes. Alright, so now I have that. One of the things I've noticed is sometimes we have a problem taking those machine files from our live machine to a virtual machine. So one of the things that we can do, go into our task manager, more details, services, sort by name. Now there's 2 files in here. So I'm going to restart this one, and then I'm going to start this one, and then close. Now if I click on my File Explorer and Network, it still only sees the one. Let's see if we see this one. Right click, System, computer name, I'm still not seeing it. Alright, so I found a resolution. Again, this is the first time I've actually used private switches during these virtual labs. It's always been an internal switch at least, or an internal and an external. So what I had to do is go back to my virtual manager, click on your virtual switch manager, and I went ahead and I just added an internal switch. Now it's not enough to just add it here. I mean, once you add it, you can call it whatever you want, and then click on OK. And then when we go here, now it's important to know that you can't add new hardware, but we can make adjustments. So click on your network adapter, which is currently set up as private network 1, and we're going to change that at least temporarily to an internal switch, and then click on OK. Now when we minimize this and go back into our machine, unselect it and go back to it, it should come up. Let me make sure I did it right. Settings, network adapter, internal switch, and then OK, and then minimize. Now when I go here, and then network, see if I can find it now. There it is. And we're going to double click. Yay! Okay, now you'll see that our domain is well, this is my laptop. So I want to change this to a datum. So I'm going to do adatum.com /ad. There we go. adatum.com /administrator. Password is password. And then OK. All right, now we're in. And here's the software. So now what I want to do is go here. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to drag this over to here, copy software. And I'm going to pause the video while we wait for this to finish copying. Okay, now that we're all done copying, I'll go ahead and close out of this. And we're going to double click this and we'll see all of our files are here. So we're going to go to our software. We want to do our Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit. And then run. We want to do this. And we want to go to Browse. And Software. And then OK. Well, if we do what's in the book, lon-dc1/software. And then no. Next. And then accept. Okay. Reboot. Cancel. Yes. Can't do it because we don't have an external switch. Okay. So I'm going to minimize this. Go here. Click on here. Run anyway. I'm going to download to another location. Browse. So I'm pointing it back to that machine. And then next, accept. And you see it's already started. So I'm going to pause this while we wait to finish. Okay, so this is finally completed, and that's going to wrap up the last part of this. Okay, so that's going to wrap up this part of the setup. The next video, we're going to go to installing and configuring the LON server 1, and then go from there.